The lights dim on the AGT stage as a middle-aged Filipino man steps forward, holding a battered guitar, its edges chipped, its strings slightly rusted. Beside him stands his 10-year-old son, holding his father's hand tightly. When Simon asks, "Why did you decide to sing together?" the father takes a deep breath and replies softly, "Because music is all we have left." After losing my wife, his mom, the audience falls silent. Then, as the first chord rings out, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The sun was setting over the small coastal town of Cebu, painting the sky in soft orange and violet hues. Amid the gentle hum of tricycles and distant laughter, a father and son sat outside a modest bamboo house, their voices blending with the rhythm of the sea breeze. Ramon strummed his old guitar, its varnish long faded, its strings replaced with mismatched ones, while his 10-year-old son, Eli, sang beside him with a voice so pure it could quiet the world. For years, this was their sanctuary. After losing Ramon's wife Maria to illness, the little family of two found healing not in words but in music. Each night, when silence grew heavy with memory, Eli would tug on his father's sleeve and whisper, "Let's sing for Mama." And they would, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, until the stars came out. Ramon worked long hours as a tricycle driver to make ends meet. His calloused hands bore the marks of years spent gripping handlebars and fixing engines. But every peso earned went toward Eli's schooling and the small dream they kept tucked away, recording a song someday, just to let the world hear their hearts. One afternoon, while scrolling through an old phone at the internet cafe, Eli stumbled upon a video of America's Got Talent auditions. He watched as a young boy from Japan sang before millions, and his eyes widened in awe. "Papa," he said, eyes gleaming, "they let people from other countries audition. Maybe we could try." Ramon laughed softly, shaking his head. "Ay, anak, that's too big for us. We're just simple people." But Eli pressed on, holding up the phone. "Mama always said your voice could heal hearts. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it." The words pierced Ramon's chest like a gentle arrow. That night, after Eli had fallen asleep, he sat alone by the window, strumming the same lullaby Maria used to hum. He looked at her framed photo and whispered, "Do you think we could really do it?" The next morning, they made a choice. Ramon sold his worn-out karaoke speaker, one of their few treasures, and borrowed money from a kind neighbor to afford 2 plane tickets. Their village gathered to wish them luck, some laughing, some crying, all proud. When their flight took off, Ramon clutched Eli's hand tightly. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar: hope. As the airplane soared over the clouds, Eli leaned his head against his father's arm and said softly, "Mama's watching. Papa, she'll be there when we sing." Ramon smiled through tears. "Then we'll make her proud, anak." And just like that, 2 voices from a small corner of the Philippines began their journey to the biggest stage in the world, carrying nothing but love, faith, and a song written straight from the heart. The bright lights of Los Angeles felt a world away from the warm evenings of Cebu. The city's rhythm was louder, faster, full of dreams that either soared or shattered. As Ramon and Eli walked through the massive glass doors of the America's Got Talent studio, their hands clasped tightly together, they looked both awed and terrified. Ramon had never seen anything like it. Cameras whirred, producers rushed past with clipboards, and contestants rehearsed in every corner. Some had flashy costumes, others carried instruments that gleamed under the lights. He looked down at his own faded guitar, the same one Maria once played, and felt a wave of doubt. "Papa," Eli said, tugging gently on his sleeve. "Are you nervous?" Ramon smiled faintly, trying to mask his shaking hands. "A little, anak. But maybe that's good. It means we care." Eli nodded. "Then Mama must be nervous too." Those words broke the tension. Ramon laughed quietly, his heart softening. They sat on a bench backstage, humming the chorus of their song, "Home Again, One Last Time." Every lyric had been born from love, each line a letter to the woman they both missed. As they waited, a tall producer approached. "Ramon and Eli from the Philippines." "You're next." Ramon's throat tightened. He adjusted the strap of his guitar, wiped his palms against his jeans, and looked at his son. Eli, though small, stood with quiet confidence, his mother's bravery shining through him. The stage door opened. A flood of white light poured in, so bright it almost blinded them. The roar of the crowd swelled, The iconic AGT stage, vast, glittering, and full of possibility, stood before them. Ramon felt his knees weaken, but Eli squeezed his hand. "We're home, Papa," he whispered. They stepped forward. Simon Cowell raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Hello, what's your name?" Ramon cleared his throat, voice trembling. "I'm Ramon, and this is my son, Eli. We came all the way from the Philippines." The audience cheered. Simon smiled faintly. "And what will you be singing for us today?" Ramon looked at Eli before answering. "A song I wrote. For my wife. She passed away, but she loved music. We wanted to honor her." The entire room grew still. Even the judges leaned closer. Simon's expression softened. "Take your time," he said quietly. Ramon positioned his guitar, fingers trembling against the strings. Eli took a deep breath, closing his eyes. The lights dimmed, leaving only a golden spotlight on the two of them. The first chord rang out, soft, hesitant, then grew stronger. Ramon's voice broke the silence, deep and soulful, carrying years of love and loss. Eli joined in on the chorus, their voices blending into a harmony so pure that the entire theater seemed to hold its breath. For that moment, it wasn't a competition. It was a conversation between heaven and earth, between a father, a son, and the woman they still sang for. The first notes of the song floated softly through the air, fragile, trembling, almost uncertain, like a whisper afraid to be heard. Then slowly, the melody found its courage. Ramon's voice was rough, textured with years of pain and endurance, yet beneath that roughness was something pure, a father's love. His fingers moved over the guitar strings with delicate precision, each chord carrying the memory of a promise made long ago, to keep singing, no matter what life took away. Eli stood beside him, holding the microphone with both hands. His small voice joined his father's, soft at first, then rising with steady strength. Together they sang Home Again, a song that spoke of love that never dies, of finding light after loss. "Even if the stars forget to shine, and the night steals away our sky, I'll find you in every song, I'll bring you home again." The theater was silent, not out of politeness, but reverence. You could almost hear the air itself listening. The camera panned across the judges. Heidi had her hand over her heart. Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears. Howie leaned forward, lips parted, lost in the story their voices told. But it was Simon Cowell's face that said the most. The man known for his sharp critiques sat utterly still, his expression softening with every note. Halfway through the performance, Eli's voice cracked onto tiny human imperfection. Ramon glanced at him, his smile gentle, reassuring. Without missing a beat, he reached out and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. The gesture said everything. "I'm here. We're together." Eli's confidence returned. He sang the next line stronger, eyes closed, face lifted toward the light. As they reached the final chorus, Ramon's voice quivered, and the emotion that he had carried for years finally broke free. His voice faltered, and for a brief moment silence fell. Then Eli stepped closer, finishing the line his father couldn't. "Even if the world forgets our song, we'll still be home again." The audience rose as one, thunderous applause, tears glistening in every direction. Some clapped, others simply held their hands to their hearts, unable to speak. Simon blinked, swallowed hard, and looked away for a moment. For years he had heard thousands of singers, but never a performance so raw, so real. It wasn't about technique. It was about truth. When the final note faded, Ramon and Eli stood together in silence, father and son, hand in hand, surrounded by golden light. And in that moment, every person in the theater felt it too. This wasn't just a song. It was a love letter, from a husband to his late wife, from a father to his son, and from two souls who refused to let loss silence their song. The final note still lingered in the air like a prayer refusing to fade. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. No cheers, no applause, just stillness. The father and son stood frozen in the spotlight, their hands trembling, eyes glistening with tears. Then it happened, a sound like a wave rising. Applause erupted, wild and unstoppable. The audience stood to their feet, clapping, shouting, crying all at once. People hugged each other. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes with the corner of her scarf. Even the stage crew backstage was emotional, hands covering their mouths in disbelief. Ramon blinked rapidly, unsure how to react. He looked down at Eli, who smiled through tears. his small hand clutching his father's. "We did it, Papa," he whispered softly. Simon Cowell sat motionless for a long moment. His usually composed face was cracked open with emotion, eyes red, lips pressed together as he tried to steady his voice. Finally he stood, slowly, deliberately, and the theater fell silent once more. He looked at them, really looked, and said in a voice softer than anyone had ever heard from him, "You know, I've been doing this a long time. I've heard thousands of voices, but what you two just did wasn't just singing. It was love." Ramon's chin trembled. He couldn't speak. Eli simply nodded as if understanding every word. Simon continued, his voice breaking. "You reminded us all what this show is supposed to be about. Real people, real stories, real hearts. You didn't just perform a song. You gave us a memory we'll never forget." He paused, then looked up at the golden buzzer. The audience gasped. Simon smiled faintly through tears. "This," he said, "is for your wife, and for every parent who never stopped believing in their child." He pressed the golden buzzer. In an instant, the stage exploded into light. Golden confetti rained down like sunlight from heaven. The music swelled. Ramon dropped his guitar, overcome by emotion, and fell to his knees as Eli rushed into his arms. Father and son held each other tightly, crying and laughing all at once as the confetti swirled around them. Simon walked up to the stage, something he rarely did. He knelt beside Ramon, placed a hand on his shoulder, and whispered, "Your wife is smiling right now. You made her proud." Ramon looked up through tears and managed a broken smile. "Thank you, sir, for seeing us." Simon nodded gently. "No," he said, voice trembling. "Thank you for reminding us what love sounds like." The audience roared again, standing taller, clapping harder. Cameras flashed, golden light reflected off the tears on their faces. And as Ramon and Eli stood there, bathed in that glowing rain of dreams, it was no longer about winning a show. It was about something far greater, a family reunited through music, a love reborn through kindness, and a world reminded that miracles can still happen. Weeks after that unforgettable night, the video of Ramon and Eli's performance flooded the internet. Within hours, it had gone viral. Millions of views, countless comments, and an outpouring of love from people all over the world. Your story reminded me to call my dad again. I lost my mom too. This healed me. I cried like a baby. This is what real music sounds like. Each comment carried a piece of the world's collective heart. People weren't just fans. They were touched, changed, inspired. Back in Cebu, the tiny house that once echoed with quiet songs now buzzed with laughter and light. Reporters visited, neighbors gathered, and strangers from across the globe sent letters and gifts. Some even donated money, saying, "Please keep singing for those who can't." But Ramon didn't use the money to chase fame. Instead, he did something far more beautiful. He turned their story into a gift for others. With the donations, he and Eli built a small open-air music center beside their home. Bamboo walls, a tin roof, and a hand-painted sign that read, "Maria's Melody, a place where every child can sing." There, every weekend, children from the community, many who couldn't afford instruments or lessons, would gather. Ramon taught them guitar on borrowed strings. Eli helped younger kids find their voice. Sometimes they'd perform the same song that changed their lives, "Home Again," and the whole barangay would sing along, the air filled with laughter, hope, and the sound of healing. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, Eli ran up to his father with a smile. "Papa, someone sent us a letter." Ramon opened it carefully. Inside was a simple note. "Dear Ramon and Eli, I watched your performance the night my daughter passed away. Your song helped me believe that love never really leaves us. Thank you. From a father who now sings again." A friend from Ohio, Ramon held the letter to his chest, his eyes glistening. He looked up at the small group of children learning guitar nearby, their voices blending softly under the setting sun. "That's why we sing, Anak," he whispered. "Not for fame, not for the world, but for hearts that need to heal, just like ours once did." Eli smiled, resting his head on his father's shoulder. "Then let's never stop, Papa." The camera pans upward, the warm glow of sunset wrapping them in golden light as their music echoes into the evening air. It's no longer about a golden buzzer. or even a song. It's about what happens when love refuses to fade, and kindness becomes the melody the world never forgets.